MMA comes with loyalty. And
you don't want to be like, okay, I don't need you anymore. That's it. We're done. So your last fight was against Claudio Ribeiro in the UFC.
When I'm like the best version of myself, it's because I did what I wanted to do, and I did it the way I wanted to do it. So then my last fight with Claudio Ribeiro, it seemed like so many things were getting changed, and like to help other people, that I couldn't feel myself the whole experience. I would be there from 10 a.m. to like 9 p.m. all day, every day. And like, so who's home with the girl I was seeing and my kid?
That's when it sucks, is whenever you do something and you have fun doing it, and then you get to the highest level and you realize, oh, it's not as fun as I thought it was before.
I come in here, it looks professional. Tune into the content.
Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Direct Discussions. Yes, I used 4 cards this time on this piece of paper because we got a lot to talk about with our good friend over here, Joseph Holmes. Everybody may know him as UglyMan Joe out of Mesquite, correct?
Yeah.
All right, Mesquite, Texas. But little do you know that this guy's been all over the country as a professional MMA fighter. So I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to David to introduce our guest one more time.
Appreciate it, guys, for tuning into another episode of Direct Discussions, the #1 podcast in Texas. Thank you for being with here, UglyMan Joe. Now, to start this off, I want to just ask you this first question to start it off. Where did you get the name UglyMan Joe?
I swear that's usually how I start any type of interview or podcast or anything. I'm talking with people who I haven't met before. But, you know, UglyMan Joe comes from an idea that a group of guys that I was cool with when I was in college came up with. And basically, like, so when you're growing up, right, you and your friends, you roast on each other or fire each other up, however you know it by. And, you know, you're basically calling a person ugly or roasting on their shoes or roasting on their outfit or something. Like, in my culture growing up, that is like your cue to talk back. You know, your cue to show that you're not a punk, you know, snap back, you know what I mean? Like, show your confidence, show who you are. And that's just been something that's been in my culture my whole life. So when I was in college, I met this group of guys. We ended up hitting it off right away. I was there on a full ride scholarship, half for academics, half for football. And so I was pretty popular, I thought. And so I link up with these dudes. We're like getting invited to all the parties, all those fraternity parties, all that stuff. And, you know, one day we're like getting high in the freaking restroom, hot boxing or whatever. And we're like, guys, we need a name. You know, we all start shooting ideas. And, you know, most of the time when I would see a friend of mine, like, oh, ugly, you know?
We still say that to this day.
I'm telling you, like, it's a big thing. And, like, when that would happen, you know, like I said, that's your moment to snap back. Like, boy, you better get your, you know. And so we were like, what about UglyMan Gang? You know, and actually, I don't think I was the one that mentioned it. I don't quite know. It was one of us. And when we heard it, we're like, oh, hell yeah. And, you know, they have those emojis. One of them's red and it has like a long nose. Yeah. And then one of them's like red, but it has like just like a weird, ugly face. And we're like, okay, let's use these emojis too. Like, these are going to be our UglyMan Gang emojis. So if you ever message another UglyMan Gang member, you put that emoji in there and they know you're part of the gang if you haven't met before or something. So that was basically the idea. Just basically like, somebody can think you're ugly, but another person can think you're beautiful, you know? And ugly is just an opinion. And actually feeling ugly within yourself is something that you have to decide, like, if that's how you feel. And it's all about self-confidence and just being who you are and just embracing it, because it's not like you can change who you are. You know, you can become a better person, but you can't go from Joseph to like Charlie. You know, I can't be a Charlie. You know, I'm a Joe. I'm UglyMan Joe. So that's kind of the idea that came from. And so when I had to create a nickname, when I first started fighting back in 2018, I think is when I had my first fight, I instantly knew, like, Ugly
This
Man
is the
Joe.
name. This is the name.
Yeah.
It actually sounds good. It actually fits you too. Not as in like you're ugly.
Wow. That's a first.
But no, it just sounds good. It just flows because you know, like you said, it's like when you get bigger, you kind of bring off this persona. Yeah. So like the name Ugly Man Joe just kind of like fits you as Joseph Holmes, and not like you're ugly, but I just like the name of it. I just like the name of it.
Yeah, this is the first time he ends up roasting a guest on the show.
It's my honor to be the first.
We started off roasting each other, which would be cool though, because it's funny you say that too, because I feel like nowadays that's kind of like how you show your love is by roasting each other, because it's like, let me roast you in person, and then behind closed doors I'm gonna talk the highliest about you. Agreed. And that's usually how I like to do things too, but I've obviously not like roasting every time I see you, but it's like that. It's kind of like that's the
definitely how you show. Not like respect a person, but you guys are close enough that you can get on him and then let him come back at you. Like, you know, like I'm not no B word, you know, I'm about that action too. Like, oh, you think my shoes are buzzable shit. What about your, you know, so yeah.
What about your pants? What about your Reese's Pieces shoes you got on? Whatever.
Exactly. What about that fade you got? Like, yeah.
Your barber need to quick cut you up.
All right, hold on now, bro.
But that's funny.
Man,
what you got, Raj?
One thing I do take away from that is it's probably where you grew up at too, because I mean, not everybody grows up and starts like, you know, hot-siding each other like that. Because me, I grew up in Oak Cliff, so that's all we did. You know, y'all grew up in Mesquite, that's all y'all did. But people up in more affluent places, I don't think they'd be doing that, you know. But I think it's like it just goes back down to culture.
Yeah, no, honestly, like I moved around a lot as a kid. My mom had this weird, I don't know what to call it, maybe addiction, maybe just tendency, maybe, but we could never settle anywhere. Like growing up, I moved, like there was one period from like 4th grade to like 8th or 9th grade where my mom moved every year. We went Georgia, back to Texas, back to Georgia, back to Texas. Like literally for like a big period of my childhood. And so I never had friends. You know what I mean? Like every time I'd have to meet this whole new group of kids and try and like, you know, figure out how they are here. Yeah. And so there was a long period where I was like very antisocial. I was in like orchestra playing the bass, you know, so walking around with this giant freaking instrument, like
everybody's looking at you.
Everybody's looking at me. Like we didn't have a lot of money, you know what I mean? So like I wore the same pair of shoes every day. Dude, I remember one time as a kid, I had this pair of shoes and I finally made some friends. So I played outside with them and it was like raining. We're playing football in the rain and my shoes got destroyed, right? We're running around on turf. And so I had like some holes in the bottom of my shoe. So I left my shoes outside to air dry, right? And so moving forward from that moment, my shoes reeked. But it was the only pair of shoes I had, so I started to wear them to school. And I remember like going to school, my shoes smelled so bad, and somebody's like, "What's that smell?" And I just like, you know, just curled up, like, you know what I mean? Like, please don't target me, please don't target me. But that was just my childhood, you know, like, so I was very antisocial. And then I met a guy who introduced me to football my freshman year in Texas. And from that moment on, I was pursuing football. And like, that was the last time I was like going to move. I told my mom, like, look, Mom, I just finally made friends. I'm on the football team. We're not moving again. We need to stay where we're at.
Need some stability now.
Yeah,
I gotta stay here.
Can't do this anymore, man.
I think one thing that separates you and me from that specific origin story, because, you know, up until a certain point, I was like, oh yeah, no, like I moved around too, like back and forth, Fort Worth, Louisville, Grand Prairie, Arlington, all that. But I've always, you know, found myself in a position to, like, you know, try to make friends with whoever is there because, dude, I would move around so much in elementary school. I maybe went to, like, 5 or 6 different elementary schools, 3 middle schools, like 2 high schools.
You're not alone, dude. Trust me. I'm right there with you, bro. If I could go through, like, Google and see what all schools I attended, it'd probably be a big old list.
Like 12, 15 schools?
Maybe, dude. I've been to a lot of schools.
Wait, so were you born in Georgia or you were born in Texas?
I was born in Alabama and never lived in Alabama.
Oh, okay.
So the moment I was born, I think we moved to Texas like very, very soon after. And I probably lived in Texas for like 5 years. And then we moved to Georgia. And I was there for maybe a year or two, back to Texas. And it was like that until I was like 8th grade, hitting 9th grade. And I moved back to Texas officially like 9th grade football off season. So whenever part of the time, like a part of the year that is.
That's probably like summertime.
Yeah.
Or
like
spring. Like
right
right around
Wait,
this
so
time.
what year did you graduate high school?
2013?
Okay.
Oh yeah, same. Oh yeah, we're right around the
2013,
same
right?
age then.
Yeah,
We're right around
okay.
the same age. Yeah.
I'm getting old. Like
You're not even that old.
I'm
man.
28, but like it feels old. Like you think back, you're like, you're
Okay.
like, shit. I can remember things 10 years ago.
Yeah,
like I'm
crazy.
getting old, bro.
Yeah,
Like
that
a
does make
decade.
sense.
We're talking about decades.
Yeah, that's
Holy
a decade
cow.
already. We're in.
It's kind of funny because I don't, whenever it comes to me and remembering certain things, I can't remember what age I was. Like, for example, like up until like 2015, 16, I just remember what grade I was in. I don't remember the year.
I suck at recollecting time frames. Time frames in particular, like I suck at. Like I was in a meeting the other day and we were trying to talk about like when I started teaching the beginners MMA program at my gym. I was like, dude, I've only been teaching the MMA program for like 6 months. They're like, what?
6 months.
You've been teaching this mug for like years. I'm like, oh snap. Yeah, so my wife usually like reminds me like,
You just forget. You're just like.
I mean,
now
I'm just
and forward.
Yeah, I'm like a one-track mind, dude. I think about like what's in front and what's behind, but I don't think about what's like,
Past.
you know, in the past. I don't know why.
That's a good transition to, you know, did you start doing the training MMA over there in Mesquite before or after your UFC career?
Before, so I started back in like, so the first time I attended a gym, which SFS MMA in Mesquite, Texas is the first gym I've ever been to and the gym I still call home now. And I started that back in like 2014, like early 2015, late 2014.
So fresh out of high school.
No, so I went to college for a year.
Oh, okay.
And like I said, I was a little popular. And so I was like partying and stuff. So I lost my scholarship and came back home after 1 year of school. So it was like late 14, early 15.
So wait, whenever you were playing football, what position did you play?
D end.
I thought you would have been a wide receiver. You're pretty tall.
I wanted to, but I can't dance. So I can't. I didn't know how to move my feet at the time.
Yeah.
I remember the freaking coaches wanted me to try wide receiver, and I just couldn't get my feet doing that stuff. You know, they do all the. And I remember one time this guy offered me like a Mexican salsa CD because the wide receiver coach was like a Hispanic
like,
dude.
learn that
and he's
thing.
like, dude, I need you to learn how to salsa, man. You have no feet. And I was like, I didn't tell you I did. You asked me to try out.
Yeah,
He's like, I got rhythm though. He's like, I got rhythm.
You just looked at me and you're like, man, you're tall enough to catch this ball and like 12 feet in the air.
Exactly. But yeah, I was a D end. I couldn't get big at the time. I was probably like 205, but I could move. I was real fast, real athletic. And I wasn't like I said, I didn't have a lot of friends. So I never learned like how to be all, I don't know the word. Like,
chummy?
Like outgoing. Like, you know, do the extra stuff. You know, the kids like who had always been popular when you were in school. So when they catch a nice pass, they're doing the whole, you know, like, you know, showing off and stuff. Like I never learned that stuff as a kid. So I would do everything the way it's supposed to be done.
Yeah.
I wouldn't do the extra stuff. Like one time in a freaking playoff game, I was the first one to a fumble. And everyone told me I should have picked it up and ran it. But I jumped on it.
At least you got the ball though.
Exactly. That's what I was thinking. I'm like, let me get the turnover.
Yeah.
But they're like, dude, you should have picked that mug up and ran it. Because I had nothing but my teammates behind me, so they would have blocked for me. But I never even looked back to see because I wasn't thinking that extra.
Yeah, you were doing like you
my
said,
job.
grab and go forward.
Like my job. My job is to get the turnover. When I dropped on that ball, it was the turnover. So that's kind of like a part of my personality. Like I never felt like I need to do the extra. I just do what I'm supposed to do. And I try and do that to the best of my ability.
So now, what college did you say you went to?
Arkansas Tech University in Russellville, Arkansas.
Arkansas. That's so like way out there. Out of the norm. So that's where you got your scholarship though, right?
Yeah. So
It was a full ride?
Yeah, I had a lot of offers coming out of Mesquite High. We had a really talented like class.
Yeah.
My class was really talented at those years. And like my junior year and senior year, we were like undefeated all the way up until playoffs. We did real good. So we had a lot of kids getting offers and stuff.
I remember that.
And Yeah, I had a bunch of offers, but Russellville, Arkansas Tech, Division II, they gave me the most money. You know, they gave me half academic and then half football scholarship. And so it ended up paying for like probably like 99% of my school and stuff. So
Which would have been great. You didn't end up finishing?
No, I was there a year. I didn't even play. I redshirted that year. Yeah. So I was just like practice squad. So, you know, obviously I had a lot of time to party. I had a lot of time to just hang out, not do homework, not do work, you know. So I ended up losing my scholarship, which I feel like, you know, at the time it wasn't something I was proud of, but looking back at it now, I feel like has corrected a lot of wrongs I could be doing now, learning from that mistake, you know, and not taking opportunities totally serious and things like that. So something I could definitely teach my son. I have a 7-year-old now, and you know, without that, I don't know if I'd be the man that I am today.
No, most definitely, because like I was in that same predicament too when I went to Northlake for a year, and then I couldn't go back over some other stuff, and I was like, you know, I'm like, dang, I was really supposed to go here, get this little bachelor's degree after I transfer out of here, and then get somewhere out. Basically, I don't know. I think I was gonna go to UNT or whatever. But the whole point of that is that, like, looking back at it too, like, if I didn't leave college when I did, maybe I wouldn't have been where I'm at today.
Right.
And you know, like you said at the time, it's like, man, I really messed up. But did you really mess up, or was it just more of a like, okay, so let's turn this negative into a positive? Because outside, you know, you getting kicked out, you went back to Mesquite and you started training kids, MMA and all that, and look where it led you.
Yeah, no, I mean, I've always loved kids, but it wasn't like a plan. Like, I didn't like get kicked out of, or, you know, lose my scholarship, come back home, live with my mom, and be like, oh, well, let me go and just teach. You know what I mean? It was never something I like planned or even thought I wanted to do. But it was after doing so many wrong things. Like, I came back, I made friends with some of the wrong people, and, you know, living a certain life that just I wasn't happy about. And I ended up, during that life, I'm like doing what I did to come up with UglyManJoe, you know, smoking weed in a car or something with some people I don't know, you know, and I ended up meeting a guy who had a shirt on and it said SFS MMA, which is where I now train and run the kids program at. And, you know, I just asked him in the middle of our smoke sesh, like, what's that shirt mean? He's like, oh, this is my gym, SFS MMA. Slang Sang Fighting System MMA. And I was like, where's that? He told me where it is. I went and tried it out, and that was a wrap. You know, that was back in like 2014, early 15 or something. And I've been there ever since. It's now, I'm working on my 11th year. I'm in my 10th year of training. And so I'm working on my 11th year right now. And it's literally changed my whole life. Probably the same amount as like football did for me. I was real antisocial before football, and then I found football, and I was like, oh, now I have friends, now I know people, now I can, you know, figure out who I am, and then now, as you know, like fighting and training has done that same thing for me, but at a different age, if that makes sense.
So do you feel like when, you know, you saw the shirt and then that whole moment that you had where you're like, okay, I'm gonna go there, I'm gonna start training, did you feel like right then and there, or once you actually got into the training, you felt like you became more disciplined as a person?
Yeah, so when I first started training, within 2 months, I was like, you know, I'm like fighting people every day, you know, and stuff, and getting my butt kicked most times. And so I remember I had a son. No, I don't think he was on the way just yet, but I was dealing with stuff at home with an ex I was with. And I remember like just feeling like I needed to just leave for a minute and just go, just do my own thing. And so I ended up at this bar that was behind where I worked. I worked at this place called Mesquite Barbecue. And there was this weird like biker bar behind it. And I ended up going to this bar. And when I left, I ended up beating the crap out of these two guys. And like one guy pulled me off of the first guy by my face and ended up like scratching my face real bad. And I didn't realize at the time. I just like beat the crap out of these guys, kicked them, started ground and pounding them. And like I ran to my car, which I think was my mom's car at the time. Ran in my car, I get in my car and I just see like blood dripping down onto me. And I like like, what the heck? So I pull the mirror down and see I have this fat ass scratch. I can't even remember what side of my face it was on. There's probably still a scar, but fat scratch on my face. And I'm like, what the heck? How am I going to train like this? You know, so for the next month or however long it took to heal that scratch all the way, I went to training with a ski mask on my face. Like I ordered it, I can't remember. This was so long ago, but I ordered it online or went to Walmart for it or something. And it was like this designed ski mask that I wore over my face every day I trained. And so I didn't talk to nobody. I just went to train, went back home, you know, because I always thought like you'll get kicked out. You fight outside of the gym, the coach is going to kick you out.
Yeah, when you say that, it reminds me of the Karate Kid. Whenever he gets beat up by the bullies and goes back to train, and he's like, what happened? And then he's disappointed because he doesn't want to tell him what happened, doesn't want to tell him the truth. And what you said there just kind of reminds me of that same exact scenario where he's like, dang, if I tell him I might get kicked out, he might not let me train no more. I might not get to do what I really want to do, which is be here. Yeah. So how long, like since when you started training, did you know, hey, I think actually I'm pretty good at this. I want to take it to the next step.
It was exactly 2 months after starting that I did my first jiu-jitsu tournament. And I remember having like so many fights. Like, so there's 2 divisions. Gi, where you wear like a uniform with the belt. Okay. And then no gi, where you wear like shorts and like a rash guard, which is like the spandex shirt or something like that. Or no shirt, depending on where you're at. And I did both divisions, and I probably had like 9 or 10 guys in each division. Damn. So the whole day, so you fight, and if you win or lose, you fight the winner. If you lose, you fight the loser, you know, and you just keep moving up. And so the whole day I ended up having like 12, 13, 14 fights, like so many fights, because one division I got 3rd place, and then one division I got like 5th or 6th place. But either way, like my first tournament, 2 months into training, I did that well, in my opinion. That's good.
Yeah, to me it sounds good.
That's good, like in my opinion. So I did that first tournament. I'm like, damn, dude, I'm made for this stuff. Like, if that's how good I did with 2 months, imagine 2 years, imagine 3 years of training. I'm going to be okay. And so I dedicated after that moment. And then plus, like I said, I was around the wrong crowd. I was not doing the right thing. So that was just a huge change. I'm meeting all these professionals, doctors, and, you know, people that own their own business, people who can afford to spend almost $200 a month just to go and get punched in the face, basically.
So after that tournament, was that when you transitioned into Bellator, or was that or was there still a break in time between that tournament where you're like, yeah, I can, you know, I'm really good at this? Or how long ago would you say that gap is?
So that was when I first started, about 2 months into training. I trained for at least 2 years and got my blue belt. And then I didn't fight for like another like half a year after getting my blue belt. So from that moment, it was probably about 2.5 years until I had my first ever fight.
So like 17, 18 almost.
Yeah, like 2018, I think it was more so. Like,
and that was at Bellator 218, right?
No, that was my first. Bellator was my first pro fight. So my first ever fight was my first amateur fight, and that was with a company called XKO. And I remember going into that fight, I heard that the guy I was fighting was a black belt in jiu-jitsu. So I remember I'm training. I trained every day at the time and stuff, and I remember I'm training, and like my coach did some research, and he's like, dude, the guy's a black belt. You know, we got to keep this standing. You know, now we're coming up with a game plan. As an amateur, though, not getting paid for it. Yeah. And so I'm like, man, you know, that kind of made me a little nervous. But then I go into the fight. I remember like, you know, slamming the mat and stuff, trying to get myself fired up. And this guy was pretty timid and stuff. And we're in the rules meeting, and the guys are going over the rules. And the guy I'm fighting, he's like, so can we do leg locks? And like, when he said that, I look at my coach, I'm like, oh yeah, he wants to grapple. So I know I can just beat him up. Yeah. And so we go 1 round. I'm like so aggressive with him, and this is on YouTube too. I won't watch it again, but anybody's welcome to watch it. And I like, you know, we're just going back and forth. He grabs my leg. I'm like, I remember swinging at him and totally missing, but everybody's like, ooh. And, you know, just a hard first fight that's ugly. It's a very ugly fight. And the guy didn't get off the stool for the second round. So that like boosted my confidence. Like, oh man, like I killed him just with my mind. Because I didn't even hit him with anything that hard. but it was just like I scared him and he couldn't keep fighting. So I just went on and on after that. I ended up fighting like back to back, like every couple months I'm having a fight. And I ended up fighting for almost 2 years before going pro. I was like...
You were like 7-0, right?
Yeah, I was 7-0 and then I went pro. But all that was like within like 2 years. So that was like... You know, it was like a very busy...
That's kind of crazy, though, because most UFC fighters maybe fight once or twice a year at most.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, like, I was fighting, like, a whole lot. Like, and like you said, most guys fight maybe 3 times a year. I was trying to fight, like, every other month, every 3 months.
Were you fighting often to get more work in, more practice, or were you getting paid for that? For the
No,
amateurs?
it was free. But, like, honestly, I got so fired up because even after my first fight, so I go into my second fight with the same company, XKO, and I remember them like giving me props because I sold like all these tickets, like, and they were like in front of all the pros and everybody. They're like, "Man, y'all need to be like this guy, you know, like taking initiative, selling tickets and stuff." And like for me, I was just like doing it because I was excited, but like to them, they showed me like what I'm doing is like doing what a professional would do.
Sell the fight.
Right. So from that moment, I'm like, let me be a pro. You know, I want to be a pro before I'm a pro. I want to be a pro right now.
Yeah.
So I ended up making shirts. I ended up, you know, going above and beyond to like post stuff online and, you know, all that stuff. And so my whole amateur career, you know, I'm becoming not famous, but I'm becoming like a big deal to the community as an amateur. And so when I went pro, it was with Bellator. And that was about 2 years after starting fighting. People already know who I am. Like, I got invited to the biggest show and second biggest show in the world. My first fight as a professional. You know what I mean? People don't do that. Like, so the average purse for a fighter is about $500. Like, if you're gonna fight,
crazy.
They're gonna offer you $500 to show up, and probably $500 to win. That's like the average purse. I've never made $500 to fight. Like for my first fight, I made like $2,000 to show, you know, and like the same to win. And so since then, I've never made less than that. Everything that I've fought for has been more. So I just kind of had like this big old chip on my shoulder. Like, you know, I've been a pro since before I was pro. All these other guys are just doing it for clout and stuff. And I'm doing it for, this is who I am. Yeah.
For who you want to be.
Yeah. For what I want to do. Like, I have to take myself more serious than you'll take me, because, you know, if I don't take myself serious, how will you take me serious?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So transitioning a little forward, after that first fight that you had at Bellator 218 with Jordan Newman?
Yeah.
Yeah. How did that loss affect you psychologically? Because, you know, you've made it into the big leagues only to, you know, take that loss. Did you take that with were you bitter about it, or were you like, man, okay, now I see where I measure up against actual professional people. Let me train and get better.
So I had a lot more like MMA fighting experience than Jordan Newman, but he had a lot more like competition training. Or like he was like a D1 wrestler or something crazy. And so after I lost against him, I was bummed out for like a day or two, just because that was my first ever loss. After fighting for like almost 3 years, that was the first loss I had ever taken.
You were on this high.
Yeah, I was like smoking kids. Like when I was amateur, like kids couldn't last around with me. Yeah. You know what I mean?
You were gaining this confidence.
Right. And so I lose to him. We went all 3 rounds, but he didn't finish me. I lost by a decision. Yeah. And so, like I said, for a day or two, I was like, damn, that sucks, man. It's my first loss, my first ever pro fight. But I was like, man, but look how good I did. Yeah. I remember talking with my coach, and I'm like, man, I did so good. I almost finished him at the end. We're like, man, if I'd had one more round with this kid, he wouldn't have went. He wouldn't have lasted, because I almost, if you've seen the fight, I slumped him in the end, and I just didn't have enough time to ground and pound him. And plus, I didn't have the experience, because as an amateur, I would crack you and you would just be done. I never really got to like ground and pound you. Or I would catch you in a submission or something and it would just be over. But this guy, I cracked him, and I just didn't have enough time to like get on him and finish him. And so it sucks, because he had basically wrestled me for 3 rounds, and I would just keep trying to fight out of it and work back up so I can get my hands going. But it was just 3 rounds of him just wrestling me, and they gave him that fight for it. So it was definitely a huge learning experience for me. Like, I need to get busier sooner. And I think that because after that, I went on a tear.
Yeah,
after
7-0.
Yeah, after that, I won like the next 7 or 8 fights.
Sheesh, in a row.
Yeah, in a row. And then that's how I got into the UFC and then ended up losing again. So to me, like with my career necessarily, I look at it like the people I lose to are the best in the world. Mm-hmm. You know, they're not people that are my equal matchup that I lose to. And so, you know, it's not a big margin between me and them that I'd have to overcome to be considered the best in the world. And
Yeah. The way I seen it, the way you said it, it really sounds like you were having to go in and fight his fight. Because like you said, for those 3 rounds, he was grappling and that's what he was good at. And like you said, your coach was saying, let's try to fight him on the top and not take it to the ground. So basically you did really good taking it all the way to the decision, fighting his fight.
Yeah,
that's
dude.
why that's like boxing is like, are you going to fight his fight or are you going to make him fight your fight?
Right.
Same idea. So like you doing that and just losing is like, man, there's something positive to take from that because you're fighting his fight. You're fighting his strengths.
Yeah.
And you were still doing good at that.
Yeah, no, I'm telling you, he was the strongest grappler I'd ever faced. And it was at 170, which was a hard weight class for me. Fighting at 170, I had to cut a lot of weight.
Oh, yeah.
But he was the hardest grappler I'd ever faced until I got to the UFC. Mm-hmm. And every position he put me in, I would have an answer for. I'd work out of it, but he would never let me go. And then in the 3rd round, I just, really got after him early and almost put him away and just squandered my own opportunities. Yeah. So that was definitely what I had to learn.
So after that fight, did you change the way you fought against other people? Where you're like, man, I got to put more emphasis on like, some groundwork.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Because then my second fight was still Bellator. And then I was the aggressive grappler. I was throwing hands still, but I would pursue grappling against this guy every opportunity I could get. And I ended up choking him in the 2nd round.
Oh, yeah.
I was the underdog that fight too. A guy,
Oliveira?
Kona. Yeah, Kona Oliveira. And he was a big name at the time. His dad was some big deal or something. And I remember everybody, all the things I saw online, they were expecting me to lose. And I ended up beating that kid. And he's still a rival of mine now too. We've messaged a couple times on social media. He's hating on me and stuff, and I snap back. But yeah,
you're like, man, I'm not even fighting professional anymore. I'm training these kids. Well, you want to come to my gym? We'll handle it here.
No, like he was like, yo, no, I'll see you there and stuff. And which I do still fight, but it's not really like my job anymore. Fighting was my job for all this time. Like that was how I'm making my livelihood, and now it's just not my job. Now I'll fight just for fun, just for the fuck of it.
So I wanted to touch on a little bit. So what qualifies you to even go pro? Like you said, there was amateurs, but what qualifies you to move up to that next step?
Basically, the only difference between an amateur and a pro is getting paid to do it. So as an amateur, you have to pay to do everything. You got to pay for your medicals, all this stuff, your eye exams, all that stuff. And the moment you go pro, you still got to pay for it, but you're making $1 to do it. Mm-hmm. However much you negotiate to make to fight. And so that's honestly the only difference.
So you could be a I don't know, what are the belts? I know black belt's the highest level, but you could be any belt and still go pro?
Yeah, dude. Freaking John Jones, I think when he was in the UFC, he didn't even have a white belt. He just had a lot of like wrestling experience, and he was just like, just doing it. Not doing like gi. So the only way you get belted is if you're doing gi jiu-jitsu, which is with the uniform and the belt on, and you're training under like a jiu-jitsu coach, and you get belted throughout your time and experience. But that has nothing to do, honestly, with going pro in MMA. Okay, that's just part of your knowledge. You have the knowledge of jiu-jitsu, probably boxing, probably some wrestling, some kickboxing, whatever you know. And that's what you translate into fighting.
So in those amateur tournaments and fights, I guess you would say that there's a lot of scouts there from like UFC, Bellator. You said what? XKO?
XKO. Yeah, yes and no. It depends on how big it is, but usually like the scouts either come from like having a manager. So like a manager is going to reach out or know some of these promoters on these bigger organizations, or you have like videos online, that they can check. So there's this website called Tapology, where if you do like a sanctioned fight, so meaning like the state commission is there making that an official fight, your win or loss goes to this website called Tapology.
Okay. Gotcha.
So there's things like what I just started called a smoker. That doesn't translate to Tapology. This is just like a handshake agreement to just have a fight. You know what I mean? Like a sparring match, basically.
Like practice.
Like practice. But yeah, that's basically what it is. Tapology and the commission being involved. And then that builds your record so that whenever you have like a nice looking record, like more wins than losses or no losses, because if you can keep that 0, that adds a 0 every win. You know what I'm saying? So you can always be offered more if you can hold on to that 0.
Oh, that's incredible. So, you went on that 7 win streak, professionally fighting, right? Yeah, 7 streak. Okay, so how did you get involved with the UFC? You were doing Dana White's fight night?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I was fighting for just small organizations here and there just to build up wins. And then I ended up starting to get, just like when I was in high school, and then I started getting offered by colleges. At that point, I started getting hit up by management, like in my Instagram DM, because I'm like posting and making things. And my different managers start reaching out to me like, hey, this is my name. I work for this management company. We'd love to have a conversation with you about how we can help your career further, blah, blah, blah. And I'm getting reached out to by like numerous companies. And so from that point, like now I go to my head coach, Anthony Slangsang, and I'm like, hey man, like I'm getting all these messages. Should we sit down and have a talk? And so we ended up talking with a couple different organizations, and like when they'll hit you up, they'll start naming off UFC fighters that they manage. And so the one that I'm managed by now, Iridium Sports, they didn't do that. They didn't list off all these UFC fighters that they managed. Dude, they managed probably like 200 UFC fighters. Iridium Sports is the top of the line management. All the guys are lawyers. All of them are about their stuff. And all they did was like reach out to me and they're like, hey man, I've been watching you fight. We'd love to have a conversation with you. I'm like, all right, let's do that. So we talked, and this was when I was like maybe 5-1 or 6-1.
Yeah.
And we talked. They're like, this is what we can do for you. We'd love to help you get fights. Basically, if you can keep fighting for yourself, like if you know someone that's offering you a fight, but any fight that we can get for you, we just want 20%. And I'm like, deal. Because I can still fight for myself and make my own money. But if you give me a big opportunity, you'll take a piece of it. I'm like, freaking yeah, let's hop on that. So that's when their opportunity grants me like this big show for Fury in St. Louis, Missouri. And I'm like, I'm down. Like, let's do it. And before then, I had seen, now Iridium Sports has all these guys who are in the UFC. And I seen somebody that I idolized for a long time named James Krause. So I DM them, I message them. I'm like, hey, how can I train with him, man? I've watched him for a long time. And they're like, oh man, he's a great guy. Just message him. We'll tell him that you're going to message him. I'm like, okay. I messaged him. He messaged me back in minutes. And I'm like, oh, this is awesome. Iridium Sports is the shit, So I ended up training with James Krause for the next like year and a half. And my wife is taking me like all these hours away to go train with him. And he ended up changing the game for me, showing me, just different things I can do with my size and length, and just making me the fighter I've always wanted to be. But, MMA comes with loyalty, and I've been with my coach for a long time. So I had to move a certain way in order for this to be okay. Not just with him, but like with myself. I can't just, hey, thanks for getting me here, but let me go and train with him now. Like I'm like asking permission, like talking to him about it. Like, hey, I think he can help me this way. And then immediately my first fight in St. Louis, it was like on a bigger show, headed to the UFC. Dana White's in there or like watching it, and like I'm like, this is awesome, and I ended up smashing this kid.
Yeah, man. So after that, I want to go ahead and touch back on the whole narrative of you having to ask respect for your coach. Because it almost reminds me of as cheating on your barber, for example. You gotta ask your barber, yo, can I get a haircut with this person? No, but I get it, man, because like the whole thing about it though is like you don't want to be like, okay, I don't need you anymore. That's it. We're done. Let's say 2-3 years later, it's like, hey man, knocking on the door again. Can you train me? No, of course not. Yeah, which, I think that's always the best way to do things with people. Most definitely just saying, I got to be honest with you. You've gotten me here, and I'm appreciative of that. But like you said, I need to go here, and respectfully, I don't think you can get me here, but I just want to know that you're okay with that.
Yeah, it wasn't necessarily like me not thinking he could get me there, but it was more so like, okay, you've done a great job getting me to here, right? And then now that I'm here, no one else at our facility is here, right? So now it's like, okay, if I want to get to here, I need to meet some people who have been here.
Yeah, the experience.
Right? I'm going to stick with you because you know me better than I know me, basically, in this. But now let's reach out to some other people who can help us both get to there, and then we can grow together. Because at my gym, at that point, I was like the top guy. Nobody could kick my ass, you know? So now it's like, I need to start getting whooped again. I need to start getting beat up. And so when we went there, now this guy had maybe 22 UFC fighters when I first came. And so all my sparring rounds were hard. I'm getting smoked. I'm getting beat up. I remember coming after the first day, I'm like, baby, this was awesome. Because my girl took me and stuff. I'm like, dang, baby, this was awesome.
This is good.
And so next thing you know, we spend the whole year driving to freaking Missouri, spending a week out there. Because luckily she had family that let us stay with her. And we spent a whole week in Missouri, come back for the weekend so she could work, go back to Missouri. And I'm just trying to hustle sponsors, people to help me pay for all this stuff. And I was teaching beforehand, so that was kind of my job at the time. But when I'm not able to be at the gym, obviously I'm not making that income. So I'm like I said, just hustling privates, hustling sponsors, people who could just help me pay for this stuff, who believed in me. And I was just very blessed.
Yeah. That whole scenario sounds like, I don't know if you heard about that scenario with Kobe, where I think it was towards the end of his career, they were in practice and he was telling the coach, he was like, man, you want me to practice with these guys? These guys are going to make me worse. I need some guys that are going to give me that hungry, that's going to make me better. So when you say that, and like you said, you're at this plateau, so nobody else in the gym can beat you. They're theoretically not making you better, right? Because you can beat everybody. So now that's why it makes sense to move up to the next step, get somebody that's on another level, and now you're training with all these other fighters that are way better than you,
right? And
that's how you force yourself to go to the next level. Because if you keep losing every fight, theoretically that's what you want. Because now you're just like, all right, I need to do this, I need to do that. If you keep winning, you're not going to look for the imperfections to get better. When you take a loss, that's when you're like, okay, I need to make the adjustments to get better and improve myself.
That's exactly right. Because when I first started, I lost all of my matches. At the gym, I was getting beat up every day when I first started. But then eventually, I'm tired of getting whooped. What is he doing to beat me? Let me start adjusting to that. And now I start winning the matches. And so like I said, I stuck to the plan. I stayed with my coach. I ended up getting to this high level. Now when I go to the gym, it's not like that. Now I'm going too hard on guys and this and that and the other. And so yeah, that was a huge thing for me. I need to start branching out. And also my coach is a smaller guy. And so when it comes to me getting the work I feel I need, because MMA is a selfish sport. You're on a team, yeah, but it's about you. It's about you to you. It ain't about you to the owner of the gym and to the coaches, because of the coaches, they're trying to keep bodies in the gym. Yep. They're trying to sell memberships and appeal to the masses. You know what I'm saying? And to the masses, there could be 20, 25 brand new people who have never fought in their life, yet 3 guys who have fights. So how are you going to run the class? Are you going to run the class to talk to the 3 guys that have fights? Or are you going to run the class to talk to the 20, 25 people who you want to keep coming back every month?
That's a hard demographic because you're teaching beginner and then super advanced.
That's exactly what I mean. So, you got to find a way to do what you need for what you're trying to get out of it. You know what I mean? And it's about you. So instead of just taking classes, right? Because most of the time there's going to be just new people in the classes. You need to find other coaches too. You need to take yourself to the gym. You need to get outside and run your miles. You got to reach out to your teammates like, hey, can we meet up on Friday at this time and get some extra sparring rounds or some extra drills in? Is that okay with you? You know, that's up to you. Mm-hmm. It's not the coach's job to do that for you. Like, this ain't tennis. Like, this ain't a school sport. You know what I'm saying? This is like you choosing to put your body and livelihood on the line to get what you want out of it.
Yeah,
the discipline.
This takes me back to this one thing I saw on Facebook where it's like, well, MMA is one of the loneliest sports in the world just because, you know, you're training for X amount of days, you know, 23 hours a week, you know, exaggerating here, but, you know, that whole concept where you're just locked in for a greater portion of your day and it's just you, you know. Oh,
it's very lonely, dude. Like, I had a kid where I was with a woman who I got pregnant when I was an amateur. And that whole career, I told you guys how busy I was. So I didn't spend a lot of time at home. I would, Monday through Friday, I would wake up, go to the gym, be there at like 10 a.m. for training, and be there all day trying to teach like one-on-ones and make $1 just to come back and teach the kids classes or help my coach teach the kids classes so I could be there and get more experience and then train myself. So I would be there from 10 a.m. to like 9 p.m. all day, every day. And like, so who's home with the girl I was seeing and my kid? Not me. You know what I mean? Because that was, I felt like I had to sacrifice that to get to what I'm trying to achieve here. Yeah. You know what I mean? And, you know, so you said, you know, 20 something hours is an exaggeration. No, it's not. You really are spending 20 plus hours. All the guys who are in the UFC guaranteed spent 20 plus hours at the gym a week on their way to get there. Maybe they don't do that anymore because maybe their coach gives them like a little extra time, but you know, like one-on-one time. But no, I guarantee most, if not all of them, dedicated that much time and sacrificed a lot to get there.
You say it's lonely, but at the same time, like you said, it is a team because you can't just spar yourself. You can't just fight your shadow. I mean, you can, but like you're not really getting the work in. So it's really not just you. It's really the team because like if you're going to train somebody or if you're going to go train, you got to, like you said, hit your other guys up. Hey, can you come train with me? Can you spar with me? Whatever it is, it's really everybody else is having to not suffer, but sacrifice as long as with you as well.
Yeah, but what happens when you're the best guy there and none of those guys are beating your ass? So then now you're training with people who are just getting better from you, but you're not getting better from them.
Now you're just wasting time, essentially.
Yeah. You know, so then that's when you branch out, find other gyms, and now you don't even know none of these guys, and these guys are just like, you don't even talk. You just get there. They all know each other, so they talk, and you just get there, and then you just start working.
Okay, so how would you think that if a professional UFC fighter now would get better each step of the way, moving up if they wanted to get better?
Like what would they need to do to get
what
better?
would they need to do in their training time? Like you said, because if your fights are against the best of the world, but training-wise, how are you going to get better? Is that where you spar other guys that are also in the UFC and stuff like that as well?
I would say for somebody who's at the highest level in the world and trying to still continue to get better, you'd have to surround yourself with the best people in the world. Mm-hmm. So you'd have to be on either a team where most of your teammates are in the UFC and you have all these bodies that are around your size to help you do that. Or you need to have an independent coach who's dedicated his life to helping you grow as an individual.
That makes sense because I think the person, when you say it like that I can relate that to would be Sugar Sean.
Yeah, he just has a coach, right?
Yeah, him and his coach just from the ground up all these years just working together.
Dude, it's funny you mention him because after his last fight, he looked phenomenal, by the way. I look at my coach, I'm like, how do I get one of those? I'm like, he just has a coach that he trains with in their garage or something? Like, how do I get that?
That's what I'm saying, as in his coach has to also sacrifice with him through that whole process because, like you said, if he's at the gym helping him out, then if he has a kid at home, then now his kid's he's not getting to see his kid either. So both of them are in the gym not having to take the same sacrifice of not being able to see their family and everything else.
Exactly. And then also, if Sugar Sean's busy, who's coach talking to? And vice versa. If coach is busy, who's Sugar Sean talking to? It's a very lonely sport.
Yeah, okay. Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? Like, you know, we got one goal. It's getting to the top and staying here. So outside of that goal, man, I got to do things that make me happy. So I'm sorry, like conversating with you all day just ain't it. Like,
yeah, and actually to bring it back a little bit, when you say you have to you're beating everybody and you have to take it to the next step and you basically need better fighters, it actually makes sense why Dana White has I believe it's called TURF or TOF.
The Ultimate Fighter, TUF.
TUF. That's what I was trying to think of the acronym for it. But yeah, they have that because now you're in the house fighting all these other guys that want to get to the same spot you want to get to. Mm-hmm. And when there's all these other guys trying to get to where that one spot is at, there's going to be a lot of competition. And how do you get better? Fighting all the other best competition. So that actually makes a lot of sense when you're saying to take it to the next step, you got to surround yourself with more guys that are just as hungry.
Yeah, that's why the winners aren't the only one that get a contract on that show. Mm-hmm. Usually, like a lot of guys, like on the top couple wins, like first, second, third place, usually all get contracts because they all end up getting a lot better.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Because actually, when you say that, there's a lot of fighters now today that if you watch the turf 3, 4, 5 years ago that were in that show at the very beginning, and now you're like, damn, this guy's became so big, but he's been grinding for 6 years, and y'all didn't even know unless you're really in the trenches, really seeing everybody that's coming up.
Yeah.
So your last fight was against Claudio Ribeiro in the UFC, and that was an actual card. That wasn't like Dana White's main event. Am I correct?
Yeah, it wasn't like a fight night. It was like a pay-per-view card.
Yeah. So can you share some experiences on that? Because I think that was the last time you fought professionally.
Yeah, so that was my last fight, and it was probably my hardest fight I've ever had. Not like the fight, but just like the whole experience. I've always struggled with like my mentality and just being in my head about things and stuff, and so I have been seeing a therapist a lot, like the last few years and stuff, and just trying to sort my brain out and stuff. So this was actually the first time I ever missed weight too.
Oh yeah, I did see that.
And honestly, just for me, like I felt like I did so much work trying to make the weight. And people even said it, like they saw me doing this and that and stuff. But I just felt like I was just experiencing so much in my mind, like self-doubt and just different things that really like had me not feeling myself, and I always love to have my girl with me for things because she really makes me feel like confident with stuff. And like, even like, so like, I'm a kind of guy, like I do what I want, you know what I'm saying? Like nobody tells me what I should do and I listen.
No,
you know what I'm saying? Like I do what I feel I should do. So my whole career has always been whoever I want near me or I feel comfortable having near me, those are the people that are in my corner. Like it's always been me and my coach. And then when I got with my woman, like I always like wanted her with me because when I see her, that gives me like a boost of confidence, you know what I'm saying? Things like that. And so my last fight with Claudio Ribeiro, like I remember talking with my management and they're like, hey, I think we need to do things like this. I think, cause I wanted to have this artist with me too, who when I was running and struggling, I would pull his music up and it would give me confidence, So I reached out to him on Instagram and he was willing to be there with me in my corner. You know what I'm saying? And then I wanted my girl in my corner and I wanted my coach in my corner. And my management's like, man, I don't think we should do that. All these other guys have, like all these eyes surrounding them and all these other coaches helping them win. And I think that that's what you need to do too. And I'm like, man, like, I'm trying to take in what they're saying, which I understand. You're not wrong for that. But that's just like so one of the biggest problems with my management, which I don't have a lot of problems. I love Iridium Sports. They've done a lot for me in my career. They have so many guys. So it's hard for me to feel like you're really caring about me as an individual when you have 200 other guys in the same position I'm in. And so when they're saying this to me in my brain, I'm feeling like you haven't been paying attention to me this whole time. Because when I act the best and when I'm like the best version of myself, it's because I did what I wanted to do and I did it the way I wanted to do it. So then my last fight with Claudio Ribeiro, it seemed like so many things were getting changed and like to help other people that I couldn't feel myself the whole experience. And even when I'm like cutting weight and like, trying to eat healthy and stuff, you know, my first few fights, it seemed like, you know, like even in like my relationship and stuff, like it was handled with a different kind of delicacy between me and my significant other, that when it came to this other fight, it, you know, my last fight, it wasn't being handled that same way, which also put more on my mental, you know. So I feel like my last fight was the hardest fight I've ever had in my life. And it was honestly probably the first time I have not felt like myself going into a fight. And, you know, also it makes me stronger, and also like an experience I can help people that I train not have to experience.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, it was really hard, but props to Claudio, man. That guy is a beast. And, you know, I just wish I could have just like snapped out of it, because I feel like I could have beat him had I been myself in that experience.
So has there never been anything inside you to want to say, let me go back and try to do it again?
Yeah, like I still want to fight. Like, yeah, I still plan to fight. I've been offered some fights I want to take. And I still train and stuff. But like nowadays too, I have a son who just started training, who I care a lot about his career, you know, or something that could be a career for him one day. And I'm trying to get married here soon, like officially. So I have like, you know, like child support stuff I need to deal with and stuff. So I need to have like a stable income, because like relying on fighting to pay my bills was like something I always told myself I never wanted to do. And the moment that became what it was, I needed to reevaluate my life. And after my last UFC fight, that's kind of what it became. Like, oh shit, I need to take a fight so I can pay rent next month.
Yeah, which
like that's not healthy. You know what I mean? So I'm like, freak that. Let me take a second, reevaluate, get my life in order. You know, get a stable income. You know, do what I'm passionate about, and then go back and fight when I'm ready to just have some fun again. Because at first it was just fun. Like fighting has always just been fun. You know, and then in the UFC, now it's work. Now it's my job.
Yeah, that's when it sucks, is whenever you do something and you have fun doing it, and then you get to the highest level and you realize it's not as fun as I thought it was before.
I remember my first fight in the UFC, my opponent, like everybody was lined up. We're about to go and weigh in, and we're all like standing here, you know, small chit-chatting and stuff. And somebody's like, you know, like, what are we even here for? You know, like, what are you here for? And I was like, shit, to get better. And the same time I said that, my opponent goes, to get paid. And I'm like, shit, I guess you're right. That is why we're here.
But that's just, you know, it takes you just back to that whole thing about, you know, of where you're at and what motivates you. You know, for them, you know, they're chasing a purse. For you, you know, for the love of the sport. But, you know, also too, like once you're at a certain professional level, I think that drive for that purse is a lot more effective than just doing it for fun, because, you know, they're depending on this money. And it's kind of like, you know, putting a carrot in front of a rabbit. They're going to run after that fucking carrot.
Yeah, but like, again, before I even went pro, like I set the goal for myself. I think coach gave me some advice and was like, hey, try not to ever start fighting for the dollar, you know, because it's going to take the fun out of it. I think that just really resonated with me. Like, I don't want to do this for the money, because I'm putting my life on the line. Like, if I'm doing this for the money, you offer me $1,500 to fight, that ain't worth it. If I break my back or hurt my neck and have an injury, I got to pay $1,000 for. I really only made $500 to show up and fight, and that ain't worth it.
The $500, was that what they were paying you in UFC?
No.
I'm like, you saying amateurs.
Yeah, like early in your career, like that's what the average people offer you. Like, if that, like I've seen guys get offered. I've never fought for $500, but I know a lot of guys who fought for $4, $3, you know, change. You know, like and it's like I've never once fought for that ever. My first fight, I made $2,000 to show, $2,000 to show up, and another $2,000 to win. As an amateur, I had sponsors. Like other amateurs don't do that. I had sponsors. I was probably making close to $300-$400 as an amateur, just to have a fight, because I'm like marketing myself, you know, selling t-shirts, putting sponsorships on my t-shirts and shorts, you know, doing the extra stuff amateurs don't do. And so, no, dude, like I've never made less than $1,000 to take a fight. And in the UFC, I made the most money I've ever seen at one time.
So would you say that the money that you made in UFC balances out the money you spend personally on getting ready for that fight? Because I see a lot of reports and stories of former fighters are like, oh yeah, we're over here fighting 3 times a year and it's barely enough to make ends meet.
I don't think it balances. UFC pays you really good. Like, you probably spend $400 tops to take a fight. That's on like different like tests and doctor's appointments and like HIV tests and eye exams and stuff. You probably spend $400 tops. The food you have to purchase to cut weight and stuff. And when you get in there, you're making like tens of thousands of dollars. I don't think they've offered anybody less than $10,000 in the UFC.
Wow. You see, yeah.
That's pretty
just
good,
to show up.
Yeah, that's pretty good though.
You know what I mean? Like, most money I've made for a fight in the UFC, I think I made like $50,000 one time.
It's pretty good.
Or
that's somebody's salary.
Like 40 or 50 grand. Just
that's
to
somebody's
show,
salary for
outside
sure.
of paying people 20%, 10%. You know what I mean? And then like, all that extra stuff. But yeah, dude, I've made, UFC pays you well. All these guys complaining, that's because they're not out there doing the extra. They don't have sponsors. They don't have people, supporting them because it's a selfish sport. You know what I mean?
I also think that this is just my personal opinion. I feel like a lot of people probably in the UFC that think that they don't get paid enough is maybe because their lifestyle is too high. Oh, I'm a professional. I'm always on the camera. I'm always this. I need to live this lavish lifestyle and this, and that. Instead of saying, hey, let me just give me a nice home, house paid off, cars paid off. Now all the money I get from fighting or whatever it is, I'm not taking too big of a hit to pay all these bills because I'm living below my means, putting majority of the focus on my career instead of saying, hey, I'm gonna worry about my biggest lifestyle and put all the fighting on the back end. I feel like that's what happens to a lot of these fighters is they put the fighting on the back end and put all this other stuff above it. And that's why they're saying, I'm not getting paid enough. I'm not getting paid enough. And it's probably because they don't have all their financial stuff in check first.
Which is not easy anyway. Like you have to have been taught that growing up, or you got to have like a really responsible woman next to you. To do all those things, because shoot, I was just talking to my woman. We wish that we had more in our savings, and I'm like, dude, you're right. Like, but I'm such a dreamer. Like the way I live my life, like I do things that I want. Like I make $1, and I want to do things that with my girl. Like I want to go and experience, because before now, I wasn't doing that. I was just training and going home, or training and not going home, and just training and training and training. Like, where's the living? You know what I mean? So now, like, I've done more with my woman. I feel like I've done my entire life. And just because we've had all this opportunity and made all these different dollars, like I've seen so much of the world now, which I wouldn't change for anything.
Yeah, for sure.
Like I can make another $1. That's easy.
Money comes and goes.
It just comes and goes. Like, although, put some money away and accomplish your long-term goals. But like I said, I'm a dreamer. I have so many different things I want to do right now. Like, I pursue those. Like, now I have a pilot's license. Like,
you can fly?
I fly airplanes and stuff. Like, that's things I've always wanted to do. And now I can pursue those things, but they're not cheap.
Not cheap at all.
Okay. Before do you got anything else you want to add before we get into these questions?
No, you can go ahead and get to it.
Bet WWE guys in the UFC and MMA. What are your thoughts? You got Batista, Bobby Lashley, CM Punk getting his ass whooped.
Did Batista fight?
Yeah. Batista fought Vince Lucero. Like, I don't know why it feels like 10 years ago, but he's fought Vince Lucero before. And the fight was sloppy as hell, dude.
Outside of the ex-heavyweight champ, what's his name? The white guy with the freaking dagger on his chest.
Oh, that's Brock Lesnar.
Yeah, outside of him, I think all the WWE guys coming to MMA really shows how fake WWE is.
Yeah.
Because now you got that real live action and...
I feel like we all know WWE is just straight entertainment. Everything is basically scripted to an extent, as in the actual physical stuff they do is real. But everything in between that, the script is all fake. We know that.
Yeah, but I think when they transition MMA, it really shows it.
Yeah,
some people don't want to believe it. Some hardcore fans, they don't want to believe that WWE is fake. And yeah, bro.
But that's the thing, though. Like with so with WWE, the hardcore fans know it's fake.
Yeah.
I don't think all of them do.
No, they do because I mean they look at it as all right, where's the storyline gonna take? I think it's the people who are more casual fans, they don't think it's real. They don't think it's fake, but the hardcore ones, they're looking at it from a storyline perspective. They're not,
you got to keep in mind, kids are probably one of the biggest fan bases for WWE. There's probably like 30% children who are hardcore WWE fans, and I'd be willing to bet more than half of those kids don't know that shit's fake.
You know what? You're right to an extent, because I think I was maybe about 10 or 11 where, I stopped drinking the Kool-Aid and I was like, bro, this isn't real. But I'm going to keep watching. And I get a lot of slack from that. Oh, you watch wrestling? I'm like, bro, I'm watching it for the story.
It's the entertainment. It's
a whole soap opera to me.
But I've never been a wrestling fan, but we went and saw some midget wrestling, and even I can see what you mean, because even knowing that it's scripted, it was pretty entertaining.
Yeah. Wait, what midget? Micro wrestling, or was it some other midget promotion?
I have no idea.
Don't cancel us, YouTube.
He said midget promotion.
It was small people. No, they called themselves midgets. Yeah, no, because I wanted to say small people, and I think they called themselves midgets.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Or little people, whatever.
No, I wanted to say little people, and they were like midgets. And I'm like,
alrighty, looking forward into the future. We got maybe 2 good UFC cards coming up. You got Islam Makhachev and Dustin Poirier fighting the main event. Who do you got?
I love Dustin, but he hasn't been a champ before. I'm just super proud of him for getting the opportunity, but I don't think he beats Islam. I think that he's too stubborn to do what it takes to beat Islam, and Islam's ego won't stop him. Islam doesn't have much of an ego, so therefore he'll do what it takes. Dustin has a giant ego, so he'll do what he wants, and I don't think what he wants will win that fight for him.
And then Strickland and Costa are fighting too.
I got Strickland on
that.
Yeah,
Strickland easy. That's easy.
I don't like Paulo Costa. I don't think he fights very well.
No?
Yeah, I think what got him where he's at is probably just his size. Obviously,
he's won some fights and stuff. I just don't like the way he fights. I don't think he fights very good. Yeah. Strickland fights and he takes risks, and those are the type of fighters I like.
And then I saw this a couple of days ago, but Dana White had a press conference announcing UFC 303?
Yeah, 303.
McGregor versus Michael Chandler.
I got Chandler, dude.
Yeah,
you think so?
No, yeah.
Chandler's a good ass fighter. McGregor's a good ass movie star. You see, he's about to star in Popeye the Sailor Man. That shit looked awesome.
Yeah, I don't know. After his last fight, bro, McGregor hasn't really fought since maybe what?
He broke his leg, bro. He's gonna be out a while. You gonna be out a while.
But he broke it on a wrestler on Khabib, wasn't it? Or was that Dustin?
It was already fractured before the fight, and then once he hit him with that leg, that's what cracked, is what they said. They said it was already cracked. They said it was already fractured or something.
All the tests and exams you have to do to go into a fight, you didn't get cleared to fight with a fractured leg.
But he was probably still going to take the fight anyways to make the money.
But you won't be able to get cleared.
Yeah, Dana White wouldn't have let that happen.
I don't know. You're probably right.
You won't be able to. You got to get checked. You got so many exams.
How often are they checking you?
Bro, you take like 3 different exams before you even go into the fight. You take one the night before or the day before when you weigh in, and you do another one the day of. You have to go and see doctors, bro.
The day of? Oh, okay.
Yeah, bro, you're not getting in there with a fractured leg, bro.
Okay, yeah, there's no way.
There's no way.
This is hearsay.
You have to do duck walks. Can you duck walk with a fractured shin or something, whatever it was, like a fibula or something?
Nah, no.
Like a duck walk, get down low and like, no chance.
No,
yeah, like I don't think McGregor's gonna make it out of that one, because I mean, dude, yeah, you broke your leg. That does something to a man, bro.
It does. It makes
that whole time. Yeah, that whole time you're focused on. Man, I don't want to break it again. I don't want to break it again. Yeah. It's like when a football player, tears an ACL. They don't want to push as hard because they're scared it's going to rip again.
Well, you just won't take the same risks. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
He probably won't be he might want to, if I'm McGregor in that fight, I'm trying to take him to the ground. If I'm McGregor.
If you're McGregor trying to take Michael Chandler down, no, you're not.
Otherwise, if you keep it up, this dude's probably going to do something with your
wrestler.
leg.
Michael Chandler's wrestling is out of this world. That's what we don't get, because we saw him knock out Tony Ferguson.
Yeah.
Chandler is an insane wrestler. You're not taking them to the ground.
Isn't this their first fight together? I could have sworn they fought the time before.
They were tough coaches together.
Oh yeah,
and they got into like some altercations there. But Chandler comes from Bellator, is it?
Yeah.
Yeah, and he was a champ with Bellator. I think it's Bellator, and that guy's wrestling is as good as it gets.
Yeah, I don't know. You're probably right. Maybe he knocks him out, but I feel like I don't know. Maybe it's just me. Maybe
if
I'm just a Conor
McGregor goes to wrestle Chandler, McGregor loses first round. If McGregor keeps it standing, he has a chance to make it like 2 rounds. Maybe it'll probably be a 5-round fight.
You're probably right. Actually, I'll take it back. Because I remember McGregor fighting Khabib, and he could do nothing against Khabib. Yeah,
he escaped the first round, but after that, he's gassed out. Second round, he got finished.
Yeah, so yeah, if you're McGregor, you want to keep it standing.
Oh, yeah.
Chandler, you want to take it to the ground.
Chandler, just come forward, put it on the cage, throw bombs. Like, just come forward.
Try to knock him out.
Yeah, Chandler just doesn't want to sit on the outside.
Yeah, basically. I wouldn't want to either. What do you...
Final. What? No, go ahead.
I was just gonna ask, what do you think about the Max Holloway and Gaethje fight?
Unfortunately, I didn't get to watch the whole fight, but you know, I put my foot in my mouth and I said that Max didn't have stopping power to knock out Gaethje, and then turned around and like
knocks him out
cold. And man, it just shows how good Max is. Man, he's faced most of the best fighters in the world. And he's always shown up. Like it made me look at his fight against Dustin because Dustin was just cracking him. And then it was like, okay, well, Gaethje just knocked Dustin out. I don't think he'll beat Gaethje, but no, man, props to Max, dude. Yeah. He killed it.
Final question for me before we wrap up. What good do you think the whole merger with WWE and UFC under TKO is going to do for the sport of UFC? Well, mixed martial arts.
I think it'll bring more attention to the sport, although like most people know about UFC. But I think it'll just bring a great amount of attention to the sport that they didn't already have. Maybe more like kids and more family attention, just because just like Taylor Swift going to my Chief Nation, baby. But Taylor Swift going to my Chiefs, you know, it brought a lot of attention to the Chiefs that they didn't already have, like young ladies and moms and families who weren't already Chief fans came just because they support Taylor. So I think the same thing, just because people support WWE, we now will have a new set of fan base that's going to just help the sport grow even more drastically.
And with that, we're going to go ahead and wrap up this episode of Direct Discussion. I want to thank you so much for coming on to the show.
Yeah, so much.
Man, it's been a real pleasure having you. You know what's funny? When you walked in, I'm like, damn, I seen this guy on YouTube, but like, he's a lot bigger than he is on camera.
That's what she said moment.
Ah, shit. Pause. No, it's been my pleasure, guys. It's been a lot of fun talking with you guys.
No, I really appreciate you coming out, and you're such a down to earth, genuine guy, and I really like that because a lot of other people will let some of the fame and, like you said before, popularity get to their head. So I really appreciate you being a genuine person.
No, bro, I like what you guys are doing. Like I said before, I think you'll have a really awesome concept that's going to take you both a long way. And I just appreciate the opportunity to come on because I really like doing this type of stuff. So
yeah, it feels good. You're such like a natural.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, no, y'all are easy to talk to.
I have one more question actually. Right, that's what I wanted to ask him because when I first seen him, where did you get the inspiration with this mustache?
Honestly, it's not even going to be as interesting as you think. I can't get my beard to connect like in here and in here, and I've always wanted the whole like the Islamic or like Rick Ross beard, and I just can't get it to connect. So I'm like, you know what can I do with my beard? And I can grow a mustache. So I just started twisting that, and at least it takes that attention off of not being able to get what I can get.
Yeah. How long have you been doing that?
Man, maybe 4 or 5 years now. I had it when I met my woman. Already.
So that's how you got her, right? That's how you got her. She seen those and was like, she was like, yeah, I like that. He's different.
It tickles the right spots, you know? But no, I think about 4 or 5 years I've had it, and people love it. And then when they hear my name, it's like, UglyMan Joe, why do you call yourself that? You know, it's like a conversation starter.
Yeah, that's a good one. I like that. So again, I appreciate you so much for coming on. Everybody, thanks for tuning into another episode of Direct Discussions. Y'all need to like, comment, subscribe, and post and share all of our clips. We'll see you on the next episode of Direct Discussions. Appreciate it.
Let's go.
Thumbnail face.
Oh my goodness. As long as it ain't keep the sauce.